Hey guys, good morning and welcome to Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments. Today we're on our 13th episode, lucky 13. So who better to have on our lucky 13th episode than Casey Halloran, CEO of the Namu Travel Group. The Namu Travel Group is Central America's largest luxury travel agency. Actually, they're based here in Costa Rica. Casey himself has been down here in Central America for over 20 years. So he's a bit of a lifer. Casey's done everything from starting businesses to operating them to selling them. He set up a new real estate company in Panama, built a hotel in Panama, sold that, built a hotel here in Costa Rica. Again, I think his biggest success so far has probably been the agency here in Central America, here in Costa Rica. It's Costa Rican Vacations. So Casey has a wealth of knowledge on running businesses here, starting businesses, and also trying to cross that divide of tourism and real estate, which we'll talk about a little bit today. But anyway, let's get started. As I said, I think it's going to be really interesting. Guys, remember, subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all of the new releases that we have. Usually we release 1 or 2 podcasts a week. And again, we cover everything from building to real estate to investments to running businesses here. Basically anything for anyone living here in Costa Rica or thinking of moving here to Costa Rica. And remember, if you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. And I look forward to giving you guys a great podcast here. Let's get started. Good morning, Case. How you doing?
Outstanding, like a farmer in his field.
As I said, you're lucky number 13 this morning, 13th episode.
All right.
Well, who better to have on my my 13th show than yourself?
Yeah, I tell you, after a pandemic year in tourism, we could use a little luck.
We could do. I think we're starting to see rays of sunshine though. So, but anyway,
for sure, it does feel like the worst of it's over.
Yes. Okay, let's get straight into it because I'm sure that the listeners are very excited to kind of hear from you and also your experience. But I was thinking about, I mean, you've been here in Costa Rica. Well, I mean, you've been in Central America for what, over 20 years?
Yeah, 20 and change.
Wow.
20 and a half years, yeah.
I mean, if you had a time machine and could go back and tell 20-year-old Casey something, what would you tell him and why? Go out more, drink more, party more?
Probably avoid that girl. I think the thing every person approaching middle age would say to younger self is should have bought more land sooner.
Yeah.
And that's an easy one. But again, how many people at 22, 23, 24 have the capital to do that? But, I love land, that.
Yep.
Having grown up in the countryside. And I think when you're young and foolish, you go to the places that the surfers and the Canadians go to, and you're like, well, someday this is going to be a big deal. And there are a couple of those, in Central America that I think many of us who are travelers went, oh, this place is really cool someday. And then some of these places have blown up. So, there's a lot of woulda, shoulda, couldas there, but I think that's probably would be my lesson to younger self is buy more small and mid-sized parcel of land when you have the good gut feeling that something's going to happen.
So listeners, listen to that. If you're, I suppose it's never too late to do this. I spoke to someone the other day who had come down here 10 years ago and nearly was very close to buying a piece of land for $20,000. And he was like, Rich, how much do you think that's worth today? And I was like, you really want to go through this exercise?
Yeah, it's torturous.
He was like, yeah, okay. I was like, where was it? He was like, it was in Flamingo. I was like, did it have ocean view? He was like, yeah. I was like, how big was it? It was like 10,000 square meters. I was like, it was worth probably 10 times what it's now, But I think he's going to try and get back in the game.
Probably the biggest missed opportunity that most of us made is while everyone was chasing leisure real estate out at the beach, who would have known that San Jose specifically, Ramos or Escazú, Santana, if you'd bought a few of those horse pastures there 15 years ago, dear Lord.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, prices here in the city are even more expensive than they are at the beach.
Yeah, per meter, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
stands to reason. It's more dense.
Yeah, so well, I think that's great advice for anyone. I don't think you can ever be, it's never too late to actually get in the land game, because I still think it's a great investment here in Costa Rica, especially in some area.
Well, it's the old classic line, right? They're not making more of it.
Yep.
And what they're definitely making more of is money.
Yep.
So I'd rather have more land than more cash.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's, but I've also met plenty of people who were land rich and cash poor. So one man's trash is another man's treasure.
True. Or just have both. Have a bit of land and also have some cash.
Right.
So, but I mean, you've, again, as I mentioned, you've been in Central America. I say Central America because it's kind of a lot between Panama and also Costa Rica, but I know that you've also been to Nicaragua a couple of times as well. I mean, you've started, operated, sold a bunch of different businesses here in Central America, as I said, mainly in Costa Rica and Panama. I mean, what's been your biggest challenge that you think, that you've had as a business owner doing business in these countries?
I think there's two pieces, and I think most entrepreneurs down here would agree. Biggest challenge in business is always people. It's the secret sauce, and it's also the Achilles heel. So finding, retaining, motivating, measuring, monitoring, inspiring people is hard. And certainly 20 years ago, finding bilingual kick-ass talent was not easy. It's gotten exponentially easier over the years. And then I'd say the other one is capital. There's not exactly a venture capital or private equity system in place in Central America that's seeking out entrepreneurs. But I expect the latter to change.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see a little bit more of the VC money, private equity stuff getting down here.
I think the risk profile has changed. I was speaking with somebody this morning, and this is maybe a really unkind analogy, but sometimes it feels to me that some of the countries in Central America have had a lot of success despite themselves. And now a lot of that success has gone to everyone's heads. And some of these systems, particularly financial, have not caught up to the country's success. So we just don't have a great way of measuring risk or deploying capital down here, in my opinion, yet. But I think that's going to change.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just going back to the first point that you made there on the people, I mean, I think anyone looking to come and start a business here in Costa Rica or in Central America, I think it's the one thing that maybe gets a little bit overlooked, is just that the culture is completely different, than North America. And it does take a little bit of adjusting to as well.
Completely. We all get tropicalized. And if you think you're going to come in here like a sharp-elbowed New Yorker and show these folks a thing or two, you're wrong.
Yeah. It's usually when you ask someone how long they've been in Costa Rica or in Central America, and they say like, yeah, I've been here like 2 years. You're like, oh, they haven't had their hard knocks yet. But once it's been over 10 years, you're like, okay, you're a lifer.
Yeah. And the business law certainly isn't as strong, for better or for worse, as it is in most of the developed world. There's not as many protections here. It's not as easy. But yeah. I think what's great for Wild West style entrepreneurs is it weeds out a lot of really smart, but not necessarily tough people really quick.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to be tough to do business in this part of the world.
You're going to take some licks.
Yep. But again, we're better to do it. I mean, I'd rather do it down here than me doing it elsewhere. So, I mean, what's been would you say your biggest, I mean, I don't like to talk about failures, but like, I suppose your biggest failure and also biggest success in your opinion?
Try not to ponder too much on the failures, but I mean, those are the ones you learn from. I think probably in general, I would say failings would be always having eyes bigger than stomach. And this is, where I get into the ability to raise capital or take on venture debt. It's just not that easy down here. So when you're constantly bootstrapping, it's hard to spin multiple plates. And I think everybody knows that I'm someone who's pushed the envelope on that. So I'd say that's probably my biggest failure. But that, also out of some of those things have come a lot of lucky successes for having ventured. I probably, again, this is easy to say, but I probably spent too much time taking too many licks in Panama before realizing that tourism was never going to be a high priority down there.
Yep.
And or maybe, when you're at the poker table and you don't know who the fool is, it's you. That's kind of Panama in the sense of business is done very, very differently down there. And so it's very hard to know who's in legitimate business and who's not, who's honest, who's not. It's very high stakes poker, I guess we should say. So
Yep.
I probably spent too much time beating my head against the wall, going against the grain in Panama. And somebody gave me advice there that I did not listen to, which is, pioneers take arrows and settlers get the land. And being a pioneer is thrilling. Being a trailblazer is thrilling, but you take a disproportionate number of arrows. And I certainly took those in Panama. So I may have been better off in that time having spent more time in Costa Rica. But then again, what blew up plans for just about everybody in Panama was the 2008 crisis. So once that gig was up, Panama's future as a serious tourism destination kind of fizzled.
Yeah, I mean, just for the listeners that are listening in here, I mean, you started Panama Luxury Vacations, which was a luxury vacation company, New World Real Estate, which was a real estate company, and also you built the hotel in Pedasea as well.
Yeah, all while we were also building a hotel in Costa Rica and growing here. I mean, that was pretty typical of 06, 07, 08, right? Everybody made $1 million, lost $1 million.
Yep.
So again, it was thrilling. It was an absolute MBA from a ones and zeros point of view. Probably it would go down in a business book as a failure. But man, I got an MBA in Wild West real estate and this weird sort of overlap we're all seeking, which is where tourism meets real estate. And for a brief period there, I felt like I was riding the lightning.
We'll get there again. What would you say your biggest success is, apart from riding the lightning?
Well, I mean, having sort of the lightning bolt moment that Costa Rica really needed a serious online travel agency. I mean, up to that point, I was really enjoying being an online marketing consultant and selling ads and worrying about letting other people worry about their business while I just promoted. So taking that leap from being a promoter to being transactional was a big step for me. And definitely outside of comfort zone. I'm much more of a natural hype man or an internet guy than I am an operator. So, finding good business partners and growing the business, it was a wild success. And it went way better than planned, right? So that was a weird confluence of Costa Rica going upscale, unique boutique, Google exploding, and online travel exploding all at the same time. And we just kind of got lucky to ride those three waves simultaneously.
How much more luxurious or expensive do you think Costa Rica get? The reason I asked that is I was sitting with a hotel owner yesterday, and there's a hotel going in next door to him, which I think is even more luxurious. He building new rooms, and my advice to him was go even more upmarket than what you're currently doing at the moment.
I think, we're definitely seeing the statistics of our business. I think the realtors would tell you the same. And I don't think you have to be a genius. You just go to the Caribbean, you go to Hawaii, you go to Mexico, and you see, or even Africa. If Costa Rica suffers from anything, it's a bit too much of a bubble, but the bubble is also part of what makes it great. If we look external to some of these more developed markets, we've seen the run up, Richard. $200 a night used to be expensive here. Now $200 a night is sort of entry level. I think $1,000 a night, $800,000 a night hotels, over the top villas, more safari oriented expedition lodging. I think that's where it's going. Unfortunately, that's probably where it needs to go from a dollars and cents and impact point of view. We just have to be careful that we don't step over the millionaires to pursue the billionaires.
Yeah.
But that's also a global trend too, right? And we're seeing it in our numbers. The people who have money have never had more money, and the people who don't have any.
Yeah.
So, how luxurious can it go? You know, I
Well,
mean, certainly we have the amenities and the beaches and the talent to support it.
yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Again, I know that a few hotels are probably going to be built over the next 2 to 3 years, and they're going to be a little bit more luxurious than what we currently have in the market. So it's my gut says we're going to see more luxury coming in here, but just the cost of doing business here in Costa Rica is, I mean, you have to be much more luxurious, otherwise the numbers just don't make sense.
The numbers demand it.
So I mean, with the social costs of, and that's one thing that people don't understand is when they come down here and start a business and have, they have employees, the social costs of, if you pay someone 1,000, it's going to cost your business, about 1,400, and they're not used to paying those social costs.
And that's just one.
Yeah.
Cost of energy here is high. We have really high import duties, and we're not manufacturing that much stuff locally. So cost of construction is not cheap. I don't mean, what's cheap here? Bananas, sugar, coffee.
For the moment.
Yeah. Once you get past that list, this used to be a cheap place to live and work and operate. I don't know. It'd be fascinating to see where this really compares to. I would imagine any mid-market metro in the US.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, comparing it to the UK, it's cheaper for me to actually probably live in the UK if I didn't have heating than it would be here. So, which is, insane.
the one, so obviously no heating, no air conditioning, at least in the valley, is huge. But the other one is healthcare.
Yeah, true.
It's humongous.
Well, I mean, I think that's more for probably North America, because in the UK, of course, we have public healthcare. So, but it's just that, like, the access to healthcare, good healthcare here, in the UK, you've got waiting lists and stuff. Here, I mean, tomorrow you want an operation done, you can go get it done. So, and it's much cheaper than North America.
So that, and like domestic help.
Yep.
Maid, gardener. Other than that,
well, I don't know. Your lifestyle. I think lifestyle here is much better. It's much healthier.
Fact. It's a fact. I mean, this place just exudes good vibes.
Yeah.
Nobody here sweats anything.
No, it pushes you outside. I mean, it's great weather all the time. Yeah. So.
But talking the other day with Daniel Echevarria, another tourism colleague, he said something that's undeniable. Costa Rica is a lucky country. Some countries have good luck, some countries don't. And certainly a lot of Central American neighbors have had horrible luck.
Yeah.
Whether it's hurricanes, volcanoes, dengue, you name it, civil war, Costa Rica just somehow seems to avoid all that stuff. I mean, how far are we from El Salvador? And why do they get whacked by hurricanes and we don't?
Yeah, it comes close and then heads up north.
Yeah.
It's just as if someone just pushes it away.
Yeah. We stumble into a good World Cup draw. They don't. It's just funny, but some people are lucky. Stands to reason some countries are lucky.
Yeah. What advice would you give to anyone wanting to start a business in Costa Rica? Because I'm sure a lot of the listeners here are either listening from outside of Costa Rica or they're actually here, but I think specifically for people, because we're seeing a huge demand for people potentially looking to relocate here, the kind of digital nomads. But again, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are going to be coming to Costa Rica. I mean, what advice would you give to those guys that want to start a business here?
I think the first advice I would give would be more similar to the digital nomad crowd that I met in Panama before they had the name digital nomad. I would say, don't start a business here. Start an internet business or a virtual business that can be anywhere.
Yep.
So that all you're doing is living here. Or even smarter, don't quit your job. Or have your business be that you keep your job, but as a consultant and pick up 3 more clients. Like, why abandon all your skills and network from wherever you're coming from? Why would you do that? Those things take a lot of time and money to accumulate over a life. If you can now, with this whole Zoom world we're living in, be everywhere in much bigger markets, but just reside here, then you win.
I mean, talking specifically about Costa Rica, I mean, where do you believe there's a gap in the market for a business here?
Tons.
Yeah, I think to get that perspective, though, you really have to be down here, though, right?
And you have to be out there and about and getting to know people. But I think for sophisticated consulting, technical, financial, but again, is the local market going to pay you what you're worth?
Yeah.
I think, if you really wanted a job, there are so many technical offshoring companies here now that need management. So if you're someone coming from tech, you're probably going to get paid a third. But if you would come down here and run a small tech team or run a QA team, but I think in the upper market of consulting services, financial, technical, et cetera, there's still lots of space. But yeah, I would avoid anything that was not hyper servicey that has major startup costs or infrastructure costs. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree. And get a minimal viable product out there and see if it works.
Yeah. But I would, at this point in the game, I think that our minds have all been open to the fact that the world is borderless. So living one place, banking another place, and having your work be another place, I think that's way better diversification than thinking you're going to open a juice shop here at the beach and make money on that.
Yeah. I mean, we talked here about social costs and some of the other restrictions. If I say restrictions or challenges of doing business here in Costa Rica, what would you change to help businesses in Costa Rica if you were able to?
Well, I mean, short of lobbying the government for small business incentives, I think there really needs, you talk about a gap, there needs to be more private small business lending. There needs to be more venture debt and venture capital. There needs to be a more active marketplace, even crowdfunding sort of solutions, and for businesses to have exits.
Yep.
We don't have that down here.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often.
I mean, I don't know who trades on the Costa Rican stock exchange.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, to be honest with you, the only company that I know that's on it is just the Cerveceria, the Florida, the beer company here.
Yeah, it's like the beer company and a few agro companies.
I mean, it's so expensive to get on it and the regulation and stuff, So
yeah, so if Costa Rica had some sort of OTC market, or if we just are going to push past all that with more microfinance and peer-to-peer lending, so there's certainly plenty of fintechs that are basically loan sharks, right? But more crowdfunding and peer lending for small and mid-sized businesses, that could be really interesting down here, I would think, and in Latin America in general. Just again, I think the financial structure has risk models that are from the 80s.
Yeah.
Where they're still, they want real estate and other things. Whereas there's so much young entrepreneurial, specifically tech talent down here, that if that were somehow unleashed through some sort of Y Combinator or a real VC market. But every time we talk about that, the initial objection is, well, the Costa Rican market's too small. Well, why would you build anything that was exclusively for the Costa Rican market then?
Yep, I agree.
Right. So unless your market is all Latin America or the region or something way bigger, but I think that little by little, I think we're going to see this new thing where there are more entrepreneurs here who are thinking big in tech, where the solution is built here, but the target market could be Brazil, Mexico, all Latinos in the US.
Well, I mean, we've started to see a little bit Hooli Health, Cash, some of these other kind of smaller businesses, these businesses that are expanding, that started here in Costa Rica and have expanded out throughout Latin America. Yeah.
I mean, again, nothing but potential. It'll be very interesting. Supposedly the institution in charge of promoting Costa Rica, CINDE, to attract businesses, supposedly they've had a record year, right?
Wow.
But is all of that giant multinats getting tax-free deals? I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, again, we were speaking a little bit earlier just about the last 12 months here in Costa Rica has been a hell of a roller coaster ride. And, I think we're starting to see the rays of sunshine, as we mentioned, they're coming out here. But I mean, the next 12 months in your crystal ball case, because I know a lot of people ask you, I don't know where you got this crystal ball from, but I mean, what do you think the next 12 months will look like in Costa Rica?
Well, it certainly would have been nice to have gotten a 6-month head start on global pandemic, right?
Yeah, it was
I
not
think
1 week.
I think we could feel it coming. We just didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
Uh, I think the overall thing that we're all seeing, and this is not a 12-month trend, this is a 10-year trend that just got accelerated. The lines between tourism and real estate are blurring every minute. And, what we see Marriott and Starwood and everybody else chasing this extended stay, managed stay sort of thing that made Airbnb famous, right? From couch surfing to Airbnb to Selena hostels. What I am seeing in the tea leaves and what we're hearing sort of from our friends in real estate and we're seeing in property management and the demand for our customers, longer and longer and longer term stays. I think now that a lot of digital workers have realized they can work from anywhere, and now we've all gotten used to working remotely for a year. I think that people are going to blend work and travel, and not just 22-year-old hippie kids. I think you're going to see more adults in the prime of their life with kids, who the kids can remote learn, and mom and pop can work remotely and keep their job. And that might be 3-week vacations, 3-week working vacations, or that could be 3 months, or it could be a try before you buy sabbatical for people considering moving abroad. I think that's more likely than the mass exodus that everyone predicts every time there's a change of president or a weird moment in time of, oh, everyone's going to leave the US or I think there's going to be some of that, particularly high net worth individuals. But I think we're going to see some new kind of traveler in between that emerges, who basically is a grown-up digital nomad.
I agree. But I think the one thing that's going to be missing, Case, is accommodations for these places to stay, just because I think that there's not enough long-term rentals here in Costa Rica for people that want to stay beyond like a month or 2 months, that's affordable.
Completely agree. If we had to look to a model, and maybe this is not a great comparison, but I think snowbird destinations like Florida have been doing this for 65-year-olds for years. It's now, can you have these transitory, semi-permanent sort of annual migrants that aren't 65? What are these? They're going to want more than shuffleboard.
Yep.
And step dance classes. So I think that developers, hoteliers, property managers, realtors, travel agents, we're all going to have to figure out this new thing. And I'm really excited about it because, if nothing else, I think it's really great for the travelers. I really hope that North Americans, particularly my US compatriots, start to travel longer.
Yeah.
And part of why travel, I think, has been so upscale for North Americans is because we feel like we have to consume it all in 7 days, as opposed to more like a European or a Canadian. Go really enjoy it. Go 2-3 weeks at a time and really feel like a local and buy some local groceries and, feel like you kind of lived there for a while. I think that is expanding. I think it's up to us to figure out how to curate it and deliver it. And again, it's this weird Venn diagram where sort of travel and hospitality and real estate all mix, when up to now that's kind of been compartmentalized.
Yeah. No, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens over those 12 months. And I completely agree. I think some hotels are going to have to figure out how they capture some of that audience kind of coming in. Because again, before this, we were selling room nights, it was vacation rentals, but like, how do we adapt that type of market to more of a long-term kind of stay here? So,
well, I mean, ironically, right, when you think back to late 90s, early aughts, tons of hotels here had kitchenettes and stuff.
Yep.
And then mid-aughts, late aughts, rip that out, because I'm ordering room service and I'm eating at the restaurant every night.
Yep.
So we may just kind of be going back to our roots a little bit. And certainly the glamping, et cetera, trend is all part of that. And I think it's good and I think it's healthy. Um, so let's see.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you have lots of visibility into tourism market here, Case. I mean, you talked earlier, if you were to go back and tell 20-year-old Casey something, you'd have told him to buy land. Probably in hotspots like, I don't know, Tamarindo, Flamingo, Papagayo, Manuel Antonio, all these areas that have probably become very, very hot. But where do you think are going to be the next hotspots over the next 5 to 10 years in Costa Rica?
Well, I don't want to give away my portfolio. You know, I'm a huge, in general, I love Guanacaste, even though, you know, Manuel Antonio and Jaco, that area are great and everything. But I think over a long enough period of time, we're going to see the country sort of break in half where the leisure people are arriving in Liberia. You know, everybody else, business traveler, the rest of the 3.5 million people of the valley will arrive in San Jose. So if I had to just bifurcate the country, say in terms of leisure, I've got to bet on Guanacaste. And I think we'll get to a point where probably you see 60% of arrivals in Guanacaste and 40% San Jose.
Yeah. We'll probably may even be seeing that if we remove all the business travelers.
We may jump now that business travel is dead for who knows how long. We'll probably get to that point in this recovery year, right? You and I both agree Flamingo is probably going to be a big deal because of the marina, and it's beautiful and it's kind of cyclical where Flamingo was early and then it died and now it's going to come back. And it's beautiful. The other one I really like is anything south of Tamarindo.
Yep.
And in particular, the one beach that I'm like, oh my goodness, is Marbella.
Yeah, I love that area. It's actually pretty hot at the moment. I was speaking to a realtor there the other day, and there's a lot of people looking at that area.
You know, there's a handful of places in this country where if you were blindfolded and we took it off real quick, could totally be convinced you're in Hawaii. And I think Marbella is one of those.
Yeah.
I think it's just close enough to the airport. You know, you always go where the surfers are, and that place has got ripping barrels. It's just beautiful. I don't know what the water situation is like in terms of access and whatnot, but it's close enough road-wise. I like it. So I think, you know, everything that connects that stuff south of Tamarindo all the way down to Nosara, I think it's just going to blow up.
I agree.
But who knows, man? Stranger things have happened. And then it's going to be interesting to see how the Central Valley grows because we can't keep all these people here. And, you know, now that there are more and more remote workers figuring out that they can leave the Central Valley, it'll be interesting to see where they migrate to. So, you know, the obvious simple one would be anything west of Santana, right? Up and over to Puriscal, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, as you mentioned there, when you first came here, dude, I mean, Lindora was cow pastures.
Dude, Escazú, Santana, you would regularly see dead horses and cows on the road that have been hit by cars. Wow. Regularly. So from that to, you know, condomania, it's, you know what I would almost compare it to? Austin, Texas, you know, where at one time it was sort of cattle country and cows, and then boom, condos. And a lot of it's driven by the same stuff. It's tech and employment.
I agree. You know,
but who'd have thunk? I mean, I think a lot of the beach realtors would have been happy to trade places with the city realtors the last 5 years.
Yeah, I was actually speaking to Scott from Costa Rica Real Estate yesterday, and he spends quite a bit of time up here in the city just because of tons of closings. I mean, they saw so much demand, they opened an office here in the city. You know, these were beach guys.
Yeah, and I bet that was a great move for them because, you know, back to business opportunities, et cetera. I mean, what's the huge difference on city real estate? You can get a bank loan.
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
well,
so
I mean, yeah. Just talking about that, I mean, if we see everything moving north, Coyol, I would think of anything west of Coyol going out there because, again, Coyol is only going to get bigger. Coyol, just for everyone listening, is kind of more of a free trade zone here where a lot of the logistics businesses are. Because people they're not going to want to live in the city and travel out there. The traffic's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know,
you remember in Panama, they started sort of building a city at the airport.
Yep.
Because there's a ton of expats from all over the globe who just set up shop in Panama because it was cheap to live. And if you're someone who traveled for work, you got on a plane, easy to service. Caribbean, Miami, South America from there, because Copa Airlines is so many routes. So they started, really building Miami style cities near the airport. I could see the population exploding, out in that Coyol area at some point, of people who are like, look, I just work from Costa Rica, but I service a region and I need to be in the airport all the time.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how those plans shake out. And obviously the private schools here are anticipating that, because so many of the private schools plan to open up out there.
Yeah. I mean, if you inherited 500,000, this is the question I like to ask everyone, Case, and I think we've kind of covered some of this. Exactly. You inherited 500,000 after tax and had to invest in a business or real estate in Costa Rica. What would you do with it and why?
Well, $500,000 is not going to get you too far on finished construction.
Sure.
But still, I mean, now that I'm getting older and maybe my risk profile has gone down, I'd probably shop and shop and shop and shop for a really good deal on a finished home or a finished condo at the beach where someone was in a pickle, needed to get out, or a fixer-upper, a $400,000 thing that needed $100,000 of work. But is that a business investment? I mean, I guess if you're renting it, are you going to make much money with that? I don't know. But if you're leaving a more expensive place, more expensive real estate location, $400,000 with $100,000 for renovations, if you got a good deal going in, could probably be a pretty good deal. But if it's just an investment, I'd probably buy 3 different lots and 3 different beaches and sit back and wait.
Yeah, I agree.
That'd be my business decision, just because I think, better safe than sorry. $500,000 does okay in terms of finished construction. But as far as investment goes, return, I'd probably buy 3 lots.
Well, there you have it, guys. 3 lots.
Or you'd issue hard money loans to your friends.
25%. Exactly.
Right.
You might not have any friends left at the end of it, but hey, you made some money.
And maybe you get a real great deal on the condo when you take it back.
Exactly. Well, Case, I know you're busy, and I'm sure that you're slammed with meetings today, but I want to thank you for your time. And anyone that wants to get in contact with Case, I'll put your contact details in the description. And thanks again for taking the time to talk with us, buddy.
Awesome, Richard. Always fun gabbing, man.
No worries. Have a great day.
Great weekend. Ciao.